Counselor, you are on.
Great. Thank you, Joe. All right, it's about 5:03. I will call to order the July 15th meeting of the Quality of Life Committee. We do not have a stenographer tonight. So I don't know, Jennifer, do you want to call the roll?
Sure, I can. So Chair Ramir Worth,
And I am here.
Councilwoman Renee Villarreal,
Present.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Present.
Councilor Jamie Cassett Sanchez,
Here.
and Councilor Chris Rivera.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Terrific. All right. So if we could, I guess actually, Jennifer, back to you. We are pulling a variety of items from the agenda. Maybe you can.
Yes, a couple of amendments. We're going to have to remove items 6A, 6B, 6C, and 6D because they did not get the necessary approvals prior to coming to committee. Hopefully we will see them all again on August 5th. And then another just minor note from the official agenda we have posted is Marcos Martinez will be the staff support on, I think it's
6E.
yes, 6E.
Yeah. Okay. Terrific. So with those changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Okay. So then, Jennifer, how do you want to do this? Well, I'll call the roll, and you and you can record it. All right.
Yes.
So I'm just going to go through my screen here. Councilor Renee Villarreal,
Yes.
Councilor Jamie Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Chris Rivera,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So this is interesting. Doing something new here. All right, so the agenda is passed. Now we are going to go to approval of the consent agenda. There are two items still on the consent agenda. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor Villarreal.
hold on. I'm looking at two computer screens. For item E, I'd like to co-sponsor, and then I'd like to pull item F as in Frank, just for some language edits.
Okay. Anything else?
That's
Anybody
all.
else want to pull those items?
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
Item E, just for a couple of grammatical things.
Okay. All right, anything else? Is there a motion to approve? Well, actually, there's no need, I guess, to approve the consent agenda because there's nothing else on it, correct, Jennifer?
That's correct.
All right, so we will not approve the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes from the July 1st Quality of Life Committee.
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilor Rivera, a second by Councilor Cassett Sanchez. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Villarreal,
Yes.
Councilor Jamie Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
and myself is a yes. So with that, we have approved the minutes from July 1st. We will go to the first item that has been pulled, which is item 6E, consideration of resolution number 2020, a resolution requiring that the city manager seek governing body approval before extending the term of the exclusive negotiation agreement with KDC Sienda Santa Fe Investments, 1LP, parentheses, KDC Sienda, beyond its initial one-year term and requiring that a 30-day progress report from the Midtown Development Team be submitted to the governing body And Marcos Martinez will be presenting on this item. Marcos, like your background there, are you outside?
I am outside. Thank you, Councilor Romero Worth and members of the committee. The resolution is in your packet. It's fairly brief and somewhat to the point, but if you have any questions on it, I'd be happy to try to address them. I'm also interested in any of the grammatical changes that Councilor Rivera has identified.
Okay, questions from the committee?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilor Rivera.
So not really a question, but just some changes on page 2 of the resolution, line 10 and line 13, where it says the city manager or her designee. We typically try to stay away from her or his or him. You never know what's going to happen a year from now. So my recommendation would be just to put the city manager or designee and scratch out her on both of those lines. Marcos, is that okay?
Councilor Rivera, yes, I think that's a fine recommendation. It doesn't affect the substance of the ordering clause at all. Thank you.
That's my only change, Madam Chair, and I would move for approval with those changes.
Okay, we've got more questions. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Let's now continue our discussion. And I'll start. I don't know. I saw 2 hands, but I don't know which one went up first. So Councilor Villarreal, you're on my screen first.
Mine isn't that big, but I was trying to find, maybe I missed it. At the beginning, we use a term DDA, not a term, acronym.
Yeah, and we don't spell it out. And
Yeah.
it means disposition development agreement, and I think we should spell it out.
We need to spell that out. That's all I had. Thanks.
Okay, Councilor Cassett Sanchez, you had your hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm, Marcos, or I know Councilor Viejo-Koppler is also on the line. The extension is on top of any extension that would be due to COVID, correct?
Are you asking if the exclusive negotiating agreement has
Yes,
an
I
extension?
apologize. So if we had to, if we extended it for 3 months because it was determined that 3 months were lost because of COVID, it would be the 4-month extension after that. Am I correct in that understanding?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was all.
Okay, Councilor Garcia, your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was more so about the acronym DDA, but it was answered. So thank you, Councilor Villarreal. And if I can be added as a co-sponsor as well. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I do have some questions, Marcus. So as I understand this, when we approved on May 4th at the City Council meeting, the exclusive negotiating agreement, in that agreement, we specifically allowed for a 12-month term for that agreement. And we also agreed to extend it for 4 months beyond that period. And to Councilor Cassett Sanchez's point, we also put in there the ability to incorporate any delays that might be caused because of COVID restrictions, and the development team might not be able to get the right experts out there because because we're in a shutdown mode. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, Counselor. There is an initial term provision in the exclusive negotiating agreement, which is 12 months. And then there was there was an extended term that the parties negotiated in the event that the DDA was not finished in the initial term. So yes, your overview
Okay,
is correct.
so we as a governing body already decided that there would be a 12 months and then the ability to add 4 months. So that we've already decided, correct?
Yes, the extended term has to happen by the city manager extending it under a provision of the contract.
But so what are we doing with this resolution? What would this resolution change about that contractual arrangement?
I think the purpose of this resolution is to have the extended term be approved basically by the governing body rather than the city manager.
And if we didn't approve the extension of the term, contractually, we've already allowed for the city manager to do that. And this is a resolution, it's non-binding. What would that do if we chose not to extend the term for 4 months?
I think what the effect would be that the governing body would direct the city manager not to exercise this contractual provision in the contract. And so the term would be limited to its initial term of 12 months.
So we can change a contractual term by resolution.
Councillor Romero Worth, I would be very hesitant to say that. What I think, the only way I could read that the resolution directive would be that it would direct the city manager not to exercise a contractual right that exists.
Okay, so we would say to the city, so it's possible we could either say to the city manager, go ahead, extend it for 4 months, or we could say, don't extend it for 4 months, and she would have to do under the contract. I mean, it just, to me, it seems like we've already given the ability for it to be essentially a 16-month contract in the initial document that we approved.
Councillor Romero Worth, that's correct. That the exclusive negotiating agreement that the governing body approved contemplated the city manager having the ability to extend the term. That's how the provision reads right now. If this resolution never took effect, then the city manager would have that power under the agreement that the governing body approved. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, it's actually, Marcos, I'm sorry, the phone rang. Say that again.
So I was saying, I believe I was following you. I was saying that if the governing body didn't approve this resolution, or this resolution was never introduced, the city manager would have had the right under the existing agreement, which the governing body approved, to extend the initial term for 4 months.
And so, yeah, I'm just trying to understand what we're doing here, I guess.
Madam Chair, on that point.
Yes,
So,
Councilor Garcia.
So during the hearing we had, it was brought, the concerns were brought forth by many councilors to put that authority in the city manager's hands. And at that point, we would have to go back to the minutes. The city manager was okay with us removing that authority. The challenge then arose that Sienda, we would have had to renegotiate the contract, and Sienda was not able to make that determination at the time of the meeting. So we then moved forward with the intentions that we were going to change this. We weren't necessarily going to renegotiate the contract or change the contract language, but we were going to create the resolution that would then give the guidance to the city manager whether or not to extend the contract. And I think that's what Councillor Vihel-Coppler's intentions are with this, is that we felt the authority to extend the contract was beyond the means of the city manager's role. She agreed as well, and that decision should have been made by the governing body, not the city manager. And that's why we're here today. And so we're not necessarily changing the contract. We're more so putting forth the resolution that gives us the authority to make the recommendation to the city manager. The city manager, at the end of the day, will still have the authority to extend the contract or not. This is more so the city, the governing body, being able to have an avenue to provide their opinion on the matter.
Yeah, and I guess I see it differently. I see that we already gave that authority to the city manager when we approved the exclusive negotiating agreement, which is a contractual agreement between the city and the developers, which we approved. And now we're trying to basically undo or contradict the action that we took.
But we're not, because we talked about it in the meeting that we thought that authority should rely on the governing body. And we had even asked Sienda on the call if they were okay with that. And they didn't feel it was appropriate at the time to be able to make that change because there wasn't the appropriate representation on the call.
Yeah, I remember
And I
that.
think-
They didn't have the proper person present to make a change to the negotiated contract. But now here we are, we approved a contract, and here we are by resolution trying to change that contract. And that contract, for all intents and purposes, is a 16-month plus contract. And probably under the circumstances, given the amount of work that has to be done, it's reasonable to expect that they're going to need 16 months. And so I think that was part of the reason why that authority was given to the city manager, because, again, we are in this operationally, that's the city manager's job. And we gave that authority to her. So I guess that's, I don't know why we're contradicting the action that we took. And I'm not sure we all agreed, and I'm not sure the city manager agreed either, that we ought to put that authority with us. So that's where I'm having trouble. Councilor Rivera, you had your hand up, and then Councilor Vihel-Coppler, you're with us. Thank you for joining us tonight as the sponsor. I'll call on you next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Marcos, if we're going to change the contract by resolution, do we then have to get approval from the other party stipulating that they agree to that change?
So if we were actually trying to change the contract term, then the other party, KDC Sienda, would have to agree to that amendment in writing. What I stated earlier was there is a way to read the resolution in such a way that it isn't changing the contract, and that would be that the governing body would be giving direction to the city manager to extend the initial term. I would just note that I think the other party can also extend the term of this agreement because they have the right under this exclusive negotiating agreement as well. The text says either party may extend the initial term of this agreement for 4 additional months. So Hacienda could exercise the right, or the city could exercise the right. If this resolution passes, then the governing body would have to direct the city manager to exercise that right.
Okay, so that's interesting point. Councilor Rivera, but you have the floor, sorry.
No, I was just trying to verify if the other party would have to agree to it. Excuse me. And it sounds like that's not necessarily so. So I'll yield the floor. Thank you.
Okay, so if I can just clarify, so if the other party, if Hacienda decided that they needed an extension, they could say, we need an extension, and there would be an extension. There's no coming back to us, correct?
I think that's a plausible reading of this contract. That's what it plainly says, that either party may extend the term of this agreement. It doesn't say that both parties have to agree. In essence, both parties have agreed to this extension term. The question was who would do it on behalf of the city or Hacienda. And so, or KDC Hacienda. KDC Hacienda may exercise that right by giving us valid notice. The city may do so. As it's written now, the city manager would do that, perform that act. With this resolution, the governing body would have to direct the city manager to do that.
Okay, Councilor Vihil-Coppler, this is your resolution, and you have raised your hand.
Thank you. I want to go back to the meeting where we discussed the contract with Hacienda. And during that time, I had these 2 amendments prepared to make, and in fact, introduced the amendments, and it was discussed by, I believe, the city attorney, and the mayor had some comments, and maybe a few other people, but you know, it was their argument was convincing that we would have had to renegotiate the contract, and then it would delay everything in getting started. So I didn't want to do that. That wasn't the purpose. So it was told to me, why don't you make these changes through resolution? And at least as I recall the discussion during the council meeting, there was nobody that thought that was a bad idea. At any rate, so here's those 2 items, which I would have introduced that night at the governing body, but as long as it seemed to be that people would agree that this would be the way to get that done. And the reason I would have introduced these amendments at the time, and I'm introducing them now, is because this is a major project. And I don't believe that the governing body should not be updated on the progress reports. That's the other part of this one. And I don't believe the governing body should be left out of decision-making on extending the contract. Now, my purpose in these resolutions is not, and I clearly understand it's for a year, and that there's 4 additional months that either party can extend unilaterally. It's beyond that, because the contract now is open-ended. I mean, there could be a need for more extensions. And you know, it's a big project. So you never know what can come up. And I really think that the governing body needs to be in the position to, number one, know what's going on and what would be the reasons for an extension beyond the 16 months that we have here, and be able to direct the city manager either way, yes or no, or whatever. And if we don't do this, nothing will come to us, and we really won't know, other than the public engagements and hopefully the 30-day reports. And the 30-day reports may make the question of an extension moot, although we would still agree with the city manager maybe if she comes forward, because we will have already been informed. But the way that the contract is, as it is now, the governing body has no part in it. And I think it's important that we have a part in it. And I know Councillor Cassett Sanchez is also signed on as a co-sponsor, although her name's not here, but it's our district and it's particularly important to me. I know it is to her. And I think it's a governing body's role with this major project. I think there's no doubt by anyone that this is probably going to be one of the biggest things we do until, who knows what the future holds. But I don't think the governing body should be absent in the role of this project. And
completely agree with you, Councillor. I don't think we should be absent, but I don't think we are absent. So I guess that's the thing. So I do have a question, if you don't mind, based on your comments when you're done.
Well, this was what I was led to believe would solve the issues that I had that evening. Otherwise, I wouldn't have voted for the contract. And I did vote for it. So this is the path that the powers that be suggested I take to get, and I don't recall anybody in the conversation, once again, during the council meeting expressing that this wasn't something that also was a good idea and needed to be done. So I appreciate those who have signed on as co-sponsors, and I'll just sit back and see where your discussion goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Marcos, so Councillor Vigil-Koppler suggests that if we wanted to extend this contract beyond the initial 12 months, and then the 1 4-month extension, plus any time that is allowed for COVID restrictions, wouldn't that decision come back to the governing body? Because that would have to be an addendum to the contract if it was going to be extended beyond that time. Let's say miraculously the COVID stuff ends next month, and so that piece, we're done with COVID. That's not the situation we're in, but let's hypothetically, if we're done with COVID and we are in this 12-month period, and then we exercise the 4 months to extend the contract, if we wanted to extend it further than that, that decision would have to come back to the governing body, correct?
I would recommend that because it's not perfectly clear to me that the contract could be indefinitely extended. And I wouldn't want any question as to the validity of the contract.
Okay, so, and I mean, I completely agree. This is an enormous decision, what we do with that property. I don't think this is just a decision for District 4 councilors. This is the decisions that are being made here are decisions that impact the city and have long-lasting implications. So I too, as a councilor for District 2, am very concerned about what we do there and making sure that the council has the appropriate input on decisions that go forward there. But I think that we did exercise that when we approved this contract. We approved this contract 12 months with the 4-month extension plus some indefinite period because we might be shut down due to COVID and they couldn't do the necessary due diligence that's required in order to figure out what they can and can't do with the property. So it seems to me that, we're very much part of the process, and also, we are getting updates. I don't know that we need a resolution to dictate that we get updates. We are, all we have to do is from our committee position say, hey, I'd like to have an update. I haven't heard from you in a while. Can I get it? Plus, I mean, I think we're getting those 30-day reports as it is. And I don't know that we need to, by resolution, ask for them. I think we're getting them. So I just-
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilor Garcia.
So I looked at the minutes for the meeting because I remember explicitly having this conversation in depth. And so when the resolution was brought forth by Councillor Behill-Coppler, because as she mentioned, she did bring forth this resolution, we had debate on the matter and it would slow it down. Mayor Weber stated, the council says there should be consideration internally amongst themselves how such an extension should be done. Councillor Behill-Coppler recommended taking it up as a resolution or procedural measure between the city and not involve their potential partner. He noted this is really more a city matter than a developer's matter, and it could easily be decided without preventing the contract tonight. Then Aaron went on, Ms. McSherry said, explaining the council has the authority to write a resolution. So buy from our city attorney. She did not feel that we would be in conflict with the contract if we were to bring forth a resolution on this. It says the city has the authority to write a resolution. They can govern the conduct of the city manager through the resolution outside the contract. The partner doesn't have the ability to amend the contract tonight, and the presentation cannot happen if they amend the contract because there will be no contract at that point. So at that point, it was decided that we would be bringing forth the resolution. I know that you said that we agreed and to the NGA, but that was part of
NGA, what do you mean by that?
Not NGA, the agreement, the exclusivity agreement. I apologize. Those discussions were had that we felt that should rely within the council and not the city manager. And the city manager even acknowledged that. It's not in the minutes, but I remember her acknowledging that it was okay if we put forth the resolution. So I think this is something that we were anticipating to come out of that conversation.
Yeah, and I guess I just see it differently, that we essentially approved a 16-month contract, and we, and likely they are going to need 16 months and possibly more time because of COVID. And that beyond that, we would need to be consulted if that exclusive negotiating agreement needed to go further. So Councillor Behill-Coppler, you have your hand up again.
Thank you. Even in tonight's discussion, there seems to be a little bit of vagary about what authority should this contract need to be extended further? Should it come before the governing body or not? It's not clear. And I believe this resolution makes it clear. And we do many things in city government, as we have seen at our council meetings, where there's not from time to time, there's not clarity. And so I think this provides the clarity. And the other point about the 30-day reports, we only got that report from Daniel Hernandez after I introduced this or brought this forward. And I appreciate that he did that, but it's not, I believe it was because of that. We've only gotten one report, and this contract was approved in May, and it's timely if you ask me. I'm not saying it's not, but I want to guarantee that I will get a report every 30 days. And also it is in the contract that the city manager get the report, but it's not in the contract that we get it. And I want that clarity. So those are the reasons for the initial comments I had on the contract itself in May, and the, I acquiesced and thought, okay, well, fine, we can do this by resolution based on the discussion that Councillor Garcia just raised. It's exactly as I recollect.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because let me just read to you your resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Santa Fe that the city manager or designee shall seek governing body approval before extending the term of the exclusive negotiating agreement with KDC Sienda Santa Fe Investment 1 LP. Now, as I read that, if you take my argument back to your point, Councillor, about clarity, I take the exclusive negotiating agreement to be essentially a 16-month contract. It's 12 months plus a 4-month contract, plus a 4-month extension, plus, you know, whatever time is required because of COVID restrictions. Under this language, that all could happen, and then you'd say before extending the term of, you know, you could take that as already a given, and in order to extend it beyond that, she would have to come back to the governing body. But I think what you mean is you want her to come back, just help me understand, you want her to come back to us before she would even extend 4 months, right?
No, that's already provided for. This,
Okay,
you know, I'm agreeing with the 16-month term.
okay, that's helpful.
It doesn't even mean that either one will do it, but they might. We don't know yet, but this is beyond that, because I think we're gonna need more time on this. I don't know, but I just think we are.
Okay, so you're not talking about the 4-month extension.
No,
That's okay, because
already-
that's what my issue was, is that we've already approved that.
Yeah, no, it's in the contract. It's
Okay.
already fine. I'm talking about beyond the 16 months. Because
Okay.
I don't believe that this is gonna be done in 16 months. But
Okay,
even
that's
if
helpful.
Then it's a moot point, but I still want 30-day reports. But yeah, no, I'm concerned about the long term of this.
Okay, I mean, and arguably, I mean, the contract is for 16 months and maybe a little more for COVID. And then it disappears, so they would have, I mean, so in that sense, I mean,
Well,
the way I take it, you would have to come back to us.
Yes,
Because you can't extend a contract without our approval.
well, see, that's not the way I read it. And
Okay,
I read
interesting.
that she has the authority to extend it. And so that's
Beyond the 16-month and the COVID.
yes, and that's
Okay.
where the clarity needs to happen. I want to be assured that that if that extension is needed beyond, that we are a part of that.
Yeah,
I
well,
want
okay. All right, that's helpful. I mean, I think we would be a part of that, but you know, if you want to make sure of that.
I want to make sure.
All right. Do we have other discussion on this item? All right, we have a motion and a second. Jennifer, are you ready to record the vote?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so Counselor Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Renee Villarreal,
Yes.
Counselor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Counselor Christopher Rivera.
Before I vote, I will say that, you know, that we've had some discussion about stenographers, and really tonight is as clear as mud. So I think stenographers, even though, you know, we're not a deciding committee, I think it's important as we move forward that, you know, we can look back on these committee meetings and be able to, with specificity, be able to say exactly what we voted on. And not to say Jennifer's not going to take great minutes, but again, a stenographer, I think would be helpful in these situations. So, but with that, I'll vote yes.
Counselor, let's see, and then I guess it's Counselor me, Counselor Carol Romero Worth. All right, again, I think we'd have to come back to us beyond the contract provision. So I don't really see that this is, you know, doing anything that wouldn't already happen. So I'll vote yes, but I don't really see why we need this. All right, with that, let's go. So that motion passes unanimously. We need to go now, sorry, to my agenda. We need to go to the next item, which is F. A, B, C, D, E, F, a resolution supporting the United States Conference of Mayors Compact to combat hate, extremism, and bigotry to promote the fundamental principles of justice and equality that define America. Councilor Villarreal, you pulled this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Although this is symbolic, this resolution, I just wanted to add some clarity, more local context for this. So if you go to page, I'm trying to do this on 2 computers, but so the first page, the first whereas, it talks about what's happening across the country. Between that one and the one where it says cities such as Santa Fe have undertaken efforts to integrate immigrants, there needs to be some kind of more like general statement about Santa Fe. And then the next whereas is actually give some, the next whereas has a,
I'm sorry, what page and line are you on? I'm not finding you.
it's the first page. The first whereas is on line 16, but between 16 and 19, there should be language from our charter, I think, about how we no action, let's see, I'm just looking from the charter, something to the effect of that no action be condoned which discriminates on the basis of ethnicity, race, age, religion, creed, color, national origin, ancestry, sex, gender, sexual orientation, physical or mental disability, medical condition, or citizenship status. And I'm taking that from the charter so that it says we already have codified that. So that it should be in between there. And then we talk about where we've taken efforts, et cetera, et cetera. I think it just adds more context that we have this already in our language, in our charter. And then if you go on page 2, at the top, it says discriminatory actions that target African Americans, Jews, Muslims, Native Americans, and other minorities. And I'd like it to read discriminatory actions that target Latinos, comma, African Americans, Jews, Muslims, Native Americans, and other communities of color. I do not believe in using the word minorities. Just doesn't have context in our, especially in our city and our state. Hopefully Jesse's catching this as we go along. If you go further down on line 18 on that same page 2, it says, whereas the city of Santa Fe has long maintained an atmosphere of inclusiveness while recognizing its long history of Native American, Spanish, Mexican, and other European influences. And I'd like that to say, recognizing its long history of Native American, Spanish, Mexican, and other cultural influences.
Instead of European?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I mean,
So you'd strike European and stick in there cultural.
other cultural, or actually even you could say other ethnic and cultural influences if you really want to like be more inclusive. But yeah, I think that doesn't make sense the way it's worded. And then I just wanted to, I think I understand this, but maybe just you could clarify on page 3, it talks about the different ways, the different components of this. And one of them under constitutional rights says calling for fully resourced law enforcement and civil rights investigations of domestic terrorism and hate crimes. So I'm assuming that means that we would do our best to make sure that our investigations of domestic terrorism and hate crimes are fully resourced, but not necessarily saying to fully resource law enforcement as an entity, correct?
Madam Chair, Council, I pulled this, this is directly from the USCM website. So I think that we could interpret it the way that we want to interpret it. And I think that the fully resourced is referencing the investigations as opposed to a law enforcement department.
Okay.
That's my reading of it.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Madam Chair, Councilor, if you can please email those to me so that I have it in writing and I make sure I get everything accurate so I don't have to go back and forth. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Rivera, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me get to the document itself, but on page 2, items or line 7 and 8, it says, whereas mayors run their cities. I'm not sure that all mayors run their cities. They're not all strong mayor forms of government. And I don't even think in Santa Fe, the mayor runs the city. I think it's a combination of mayor and city council. I would recommend that we strike line 7 and 8 in their entirety and just leave those out.
Okay.
Madam Chair and Councilor Rivera, can you repeat that? That was on page 2.
Lines 7 and 8. Whereas
Sorry,
mayors
completely.
run their cities, but they walk every step of the way with business in their cities. So given that this is from the Conference of Mayors.
Yeah, and I think
Clearly
lines
written with
5,
their bias.
yeah, lines 5 and 6 talk about the business community. And like I said, I'm not sure that all cities run on a strong mayor form of government. And even, I mean, Albuquerque, I think would be a strong mayor form of government. And I don't even think we're anywhere close to that. So not sure we even fit into that. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, I guess the question here for the committee is, do we want to approve these changes as they have been presented orally? And so what's the pleasure of the committee?
Unless someone has specific questions about what I'm recommending, I move to approve as amended with both my amendments and Councilor Rivera's amendment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Villarreal, a second from Councilor Rivera to approve this item 6F with the changes from both councilors. And if there's no more discussion, I don't see anybody's hand raised, we will go to a vote. Jennifer, are you ready to record that vote?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right, Councilor Renee Villarreal,
Yes.
Councilor Michael Garcia,
Yes.
Councilor Jamie Cassett Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilor Christopher Rivera,
Yes.
and Councilor Carol Romero Worth, yes. All right, so with that, we go on to matters from staff. Jennifer, did you have anything for us?
No, Madam Chair, I don't have anything tonight.
Thank you. Matters from the committee. Okay, matters from the chair. Just a couple of things. One, I want to let you all know that that prior to the meetings, Jennifer will be sending out the packet to you as the packet to all of us as a committee and making any notes about changes to the agenda. So I just want to encourage you all to look for that email because I think it'll save us all a lot of time in terms of knowing what's coming and making sure that you've got what you need in order to be prepared. So appreciate those who reached out and asked about the items that got removed, and we'll try to do a better job of getting people to be ready when they say they're ready to have their items presented. So I'll try to do more on the agenda side. There is sometimes, because the agendas are printed so far in advance, and there's been a lot of work being done on the budget, we have not we've had to make a lot of adjustments. So again, we'll try to do better on that. Also, just want to say, I want to be clear about the stenographer role. So Jennifer is not taking minutes. My understanding, and we can talk with the city attorney a little bit more about what's happening here. She's recording actions, and I think right now we're in a great situation because our meetings are archived. They're on YouTube. You can go back and refer to them. But there won't be the detail. If we don't have a stenographer, there won't be the kind of detail that we have perhaps grown used to. And so I just want to be clear about what's happening in terms of and how we deal with that once we're not meeting remotely, how we get, information about a past meeting that might have more depth. I don't know, maybe we're going to want to record meetings even when we're not meeting remotely. So these are all questions to ask. So I just bring that up, Councilor Rivera. So we may want to have more conversations about that going forward.
Thank you. And Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor Rivera.
with regards to item B, C, and D, which all have to do with tourism, I want a detailed, I guess, FIR or memo about why we're moving forward on these in light of COVID-19 and decrease in tourism and everything else. Just so that staff and Jennifer, everyone's aware prior to it moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, that is all I had. Let's see.
And Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilor.
seeing as how we're looking at future items, if you all are in touch with the sponsors, the item with this Homeland Security grant, I do have more specific questions because the memo did not really talk about what the grant would be paying for exactly and what a SWAT operator course and FBI hazardous school entails. So I don't think that it was very clear about what that was going to pay for or cover in terms of cost. So I can certainly reach out to Mr. Mason about that, but if we're talking about details that we need for packet material, that would be helpful as well.
Okay, if you want to reach out to him, fine. We will try as well. Okay, so with that, our next meeting is August 5th, and it's a short meeting tonight. We thought we would be in budget hearings, and we would have had a very long day, and so I didn't schedule any informational items. That, of course, we have pushed those budget hearings to start on Monday. So part of the reason why we have such a short meeting tonight. So thank you all, and I will see you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Bye, everyone.